Okay, imagine this. One guy by himself against an entire army. Sounds like a Marvel plot, right? Except this isn't fiction. No CGI, no stunt doubles, no dramatization for entertainment purposes disclaimer. Because every single guy on this list looked at an army and didn't even think about running. They just thought, say less. I got all of you. One guy held an entire army at a single bridge. One guy charged straight into tens of thousands of enemy soldiers like he was taking a stroll. One guy, with nothing but a gun and a few grenades, made an entire garrison think they were being hit by a full regiment. And one guy, solo, made a whole company turn around and retreat. These are the 5 most unhinged one-man army moments in history. And by the end of this video, I want you to drop who you think deserves the #1 spot. Stick around till the end, then tell me in the comments, starting at number 5. Number 5. Horatius Cocles' Rome, a few hundred years BC. At this point, Rome wasn't the massive empire you're thinking of. It was basically a small city-state still figuring itself out. Then the Etruscan army showed up. Big. And the only way into the city? One wooden bridge over the Tiber River. If that bridge stays intact long enough for the enemy to cross, Rome's cooked, like deleted from the map before it ever became Rome. So 3 guys volunteer to hold the front of the bridge, while their own soldiers destroy it from behind. Horatius Cocles is one of them. 3 dudes, 1 bridge, against an entire advancing army. I heard that and had to pause for a second. Bro, the confidence. But here's where it gets actually insane. As the bridge is almost destroyed, the other 2 guys fall back, and Horatius stays. Alone. Until the very last second. Dude looked at that bridge and thought, yeah, I'll just be the one-man gate, no big deal. He didn't need to win the battle. He just needed to buy a few more minutes, and those few minutes saved all of Rome. When the bridge finally collapsed, he jumped into the Tiber. Full armor, multiple wounds, and according to the Roman historian Livy, he swam to shore and survived. I'm not saying I believe every detail. This one leans pretty heavily into legend territory. But the spirit of it? Completely on brand for the guy. He lived. Got a statue built in his honor in the center of Rome. Turned a few minutes of stalling into a name people are still saying thousands of years later. Insane. Holding a bridge already sounds unhinged, right? Number 4. Zhao Yun. True Too Long. Quick note before we start. This story comes from Romance of the 3 Kingdoms, a historical novel based on real events, not a straight-up history textbook. But it's the most famous version of the story, and honestly, it slaps. So we're going with it. Context: the Battle of Changban. Liu Bei's forces just got absolutely destroyed. Total chaos. Everyone scattering. And somewhere in the middle of all that, Liu Bei's infant son, Ado, went missing. Lost in the middle of an enemy army. Losing a kid at a Walmart is already a full meltdown. This guy lost a kid in the middle of a war. So Zhao Yun, alone, on horseback, turns around and rides straight back into the enemy forces to find him. Not sneaking around, not finding a back route. This man galloped directly into the chaos, spear swinging, while also somehow keeping an eye out for a missing toddler. Picture the scene. Tens of thousands of soldiers on one side, and one guy weaving through them going, "Where's the kid? Where's the kid?" He fought his way through layer after layer of enemy troops. No help, no backup. Just raw output until he found Adu and carved a path out. There's one detail that makes the whole thing even wilder. Cao Cao, the enemy commander, was watching from a distance, saw Zhao Yun cutting through his troops like a one-man wrecking crew, and ordered his men, "Don't shoot arrows! Take him alive!" The enemy literally admired him so much they downgraded their own firepower. That's a new level of respected. Zhao Yun got out, saved the kid, made it back. An entire army was chasing one man, and couldn't catch him while he was carrying a baby. He went on to become one of the most legendary generals of the era and died of illness in old age, not in battle, which honestly feels right for someone that untouchable. Number 3, Leo Major. Okay, big gear shift. We're jumping to World War II now. The city of Zwolle, Netherlands, 1945. The Allied plan to liberate the city fell apart immediately. Leo Major's fellow scout was killed during recon, The team was basically done before the mission even started. Leo Major looked at the situation, ran the numbers, and landed on a conclusion I don't think they teach in any military textbook. If no one knows you're alone, then being alone is actually an advantage. So he slipped into the city by himself at night. And here's the genius part. He wasn't trying to overpower anyone. He played mind games. Fire here, grenade there, constant noise from every direction, making it sound exactly like a full regiment was attacking from multiple sides at once. Imagine being a German soldier trying to sleep, then suddenly hearing explosions coming from everywhere, thinking, we're getting hit from all sides. This is a full assault. Meanwhile, it's literally just one dude doing laps around your city. He didn't bring a regiment. He made the Germans build one in their heads. That psychological warfare played a major role in pushing the German garrison to accelerate their withdrawal from the city that night. To be fair, they were already in a tough spot with Allied pressure from multiple directions. But this one-man show is credited with speeding things up and sparing Zwolle from a bloody direct battle. Oh, and he'd already lost an eye in a previous battle and refused to be discharged, kept fighting with one eye. When people said, go recover, he said, nah, I'm good. And during that same night in Zwolle, he also somehow found time to capture dozens of German soldiers as prisoners while running around the city, like completing side quests mid-mission. He survived, became a legend in the Canadian military, and later pulled a similar move in the Korean War, though that time he had a small recon team with him, not quite the solo act of Zwolle. He didn't defeat a whole city. He just convinced a whole city they were about to be defeated. And that was enough. The next guy didn't need mind games, didn't need anyone to believe anything. He just needed 300 men, and he was ready to pay the full price. Number 2, Leonidas. Okay, most of you probably know this one, but it still has to be on this list because as far as knew he was going to die and showed up anyway. Moments go. This is the gold standard. Thermopylae, Greece, 480 BC. The Persian Empire is invading with a force that massively outnumbers the Greek coalition. Leonidas, king of Sparta, leads a small force including 300 Spartan warriors to hold a narrow mountain pass. The strategy actually made sense. The pass was so tight the Persians couldn't use their numbers advantage, had to send troops through in small waves. It was working. Then a traitor showed them a back route around the pass. Once that got out, most of the Greek coalition pulled back, which, honestly, was the logical call. Leonidas didn't pull back. He knew the route was compromised. He knew the odds of survival were basically zero. He stayed anyway, with the 300 Spartans and some allied troops, to hold the rear so the rest of the coalition could escape. This wasn't reckless gambling. Maybe it works out energy. This was sit down, do the math, understand exactly what it costs, and say yes anyway. That kind of calm is genuinely terrifying. One detail that never gets old. Before the battle, the Persians told the Greeks to lay down their weapons. Leonidas responded with 3 words, come and take them. That line is now literally carved in stone at the site of the battle, 2,500 years later, still going. And they fought, until the last man standing. No exit plan, no dramatic escape. Just hold the position, until there was no one left to hold it. Leonidas and most of the force that stayed were killed. The Persians won the Battle of Thermopylae. But here's the twist. The Persian king who won, Xerxes, is a well-known historical figure. But in terms of pure cultural footprint today, movies, memes, pop culture references, Leonidas runs laps. The guy who lost is more famous than the guy who won. Lost the battle, won history. That's a different kind of victory. His remains were eventually returned to Sparta. The story of Thermopylae became one of the most referenced, stood and fought when they didn't have to. Moments in Western history. The last guy on this list is a different kind of story. He didn't hold a pass, didn't hold a bridge. He climbed on top of a burning tank and started from there. Number 1, Audie Murphy, and here he is. Number 1, France, near the Holtzwihr Forest, January 1945. An American unit is holding a position when a massive German counterattack hits, tanks included. Things get bad enough that the order comes down to retreat. Audie Murphy, a young officer who'd already been wounded earlier, told his entire unit to fall back to safety. And then he stayed behind. Right there was a burning M10 tank destroyer, American vehicle, already on fire. Every rational instinct says, get away from the exploding metal. Murphy climbed on top of it, then used the mounted machine gun to open fire on the advancing German infantry, standing on top of a vehicle that's actively on fire. And while doing that, he was also on the radio calling in artillery strikes, directing fire to land near his own position to cut off the German advance. My brain genuinely stalled out reading this. The level of all-in, no-takebacks energy here just doesn't compute normally. He held that position for nearly an hour, shot in the leg, kept going until he ran out of ammo. Normal people see a tank on fire and run. Murphy saw a tank on fire and thought, that's my spot. That one-man stand stopped the German advance cold, buying enough time for the American forces to reorganize and eventually retake the position. For his actions that day and throughout the war, Murphy became one of the most decorated American soldiers of World War II, earning nearly every combat award the U.S. military could give an individual, plus additional honors from France and Belgium. The Germans thought they were fighting an entire company. In reality, in that moment, there was exactly one person left. After the war, he became a Hollywood actor, starred in dozens of films, including one based on his own life. He passed away in a plane crash in 1971. History is usually written by armies, but every once in a while, one person in the right place, at the right moment, rewrites the whole thing. So, out of these 5, who do you think actually deserves the #1 spot? Drop the name in the comments. If enough of you say the same guy, part 2 might already be written.